getting into preventing the no-shows and last-minute cancellations. And if anybody has any tips that they currently do in their office that again they feel are really helpful or has really made a difference in their rates of no-shows and cancellations, like put it in the chat, share with the rest of us, see what other people are doing so far. We've talked about already, it's last minute failed appointments and no-shows are one of the most financially burdensome things that can happen to our dental office. Let's say if a practice has 100 appointments and 20 of them fail, then you have a cancellation or a failed appointment rate of 20%. If you have a average production per appointment of 300, those failed appointments in 1 month with that 20% rate would be, a cost of $6,000 or $72,000 in a year. So can you prevent it? Can you stop it from happening? Maybe not 100%, but there's a lot you can do to minimize those numbers. Having a smooth, productive schedule is really the success. So again, having those scheduling blocks, having the team all be on the same page on what's going to work best, where to schedule, what types of appointments when, it'll be easy to kind of take advantage of and take control of the schedule. Again, we always reiterate it's important to communicate to patients the value and the importance of keeping their appointments. We have to teach them again that the value of what we're providing of making their dental care a priority and then valuing the appointment time as much as possible. And then keeping your KPIs, keeping tabs on what's working for you and what your office, what their rates are currently, what your goal is, and then making those changes and seeing if you're getting closer to that goal, if you need to implement more changes or if you need to switch up what you're doing. Some tips that we have to prevent those last minute cancellations and no-shows: email the new patient paperwork in advance. People, if they get right on that and email it right back to you, they're more likely to show up because they've already invested time into doing that paperwork. They've already made that mental decision that they're going to come, they're going to be there. Consider utilizing those cancellation fees. And then have your cancellation fee and your policy known by patients. Add it to your new patient paperwork. Have it, like Dr. Catherine mentioned, have it as a consent form that they sign at their first visit. Have it on your appointment cards at the bottom. Add it in your confirmation message. Remind them just at every applicable opportunity, again, just to get it into their mind and to train them and to make them aware, so there's, so they know that that's what's expected of them. Record and note all no-show and cancellations in the patient chart. You want to keep a record of every time that it's happened. That way, if it, you can identify kind of the problem patients and who has made it a habit and who you can expect maybe to no-show in the future. Use multiple communication methods to confirm appointments and remind patients of their appointments. Text them, email, call. Use an unconfirmed column to move those unconfirmed patients into that column if possible. Schedule longer and fewer appointments. Schedule, while patients are still motivated, maybe 10 to 14 days. For a new patient, try to get them in within the next 2 weeks. For treatment, try to get them in the next 10 to 14 days while they're motivated, while they're still excited and prioritizing this treatment before something else maybe can kind of pop up and happen and become priority in their life. Use a reservation fee for longer appointments. If they're already financially invested, they're more likely to show up for that appointment. Make sure the patients know that their copay is well in advance. Re-educate patients again on the consequences of not completing their dental work, the consequence of what could happen if they put it off. That we understand that cavity doesn't hurt right now. It is going to continue to grow and get bigger. So we really encourage you to come in and get that taken care of while it's still small and at this size before it turns into something more extensive and more expensive. Offer a second consultation, a financial consultation for larger cases. That way you can kind of lay out the entire treatment plan and prepare patients for what their financial investment's going to be, so they can kind of plan and save and know what's expected to complete all of their work, and they can start planning for that ahead. The business coordinator must review next appointments. Always have the patient check out with the business team before leaving. Make sure they're scheduled back. Make sure they have their copay for the next appointment if they need. Make sure we can answer any follow-up questions they have, and again, just stress the value of that next appointment. And then be consistent with your communication on your cancellation fee when patients cancel or no-show at the last minute. No matter what the reason is, Just remind them of our policy and that our system charges that automatic fee. Do not be shy when it happens. Be firm and persuasive when attempting to dissuade patients from canceling last minute. Like Dr. Catherine mentioned, if a patient calls in and they say, "Oh, I got stuck at work," or I really need to stay for this project. "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. We did have that 2 hours reserved or set aside just for you and the doctor. Are you sure there's no way that you can still make it to that appointment to avoid that automatic late cancellation or late change fee?" A lot of times, you'd be surprised, a lot of times patients do, all of a sudden they can move things around and, "Oh, you know what, actually, I'll make it work. I'll be there." Um, why do patients fail to keep appointments? What are some of the reasons that you guys most commonly hear? Put it in the chat. What are your patients saying? What are the reasons? Is it financial? Is it just sickness? Is it because they're not feeling pain or discomfort? Do we need to maybe reevaluate how we're presenting that case or that treatment, and explaining the value and explaining, why it might not hurt at this time, but why it's still important that they prioritize it and come in to get that done.
Yeah, please use a chat box, guys, and please share what do you hear from patients? What do you hear from patients? Why does it cancel on you? Another thing I want to remind everybody, while you're on a Zoom with us, it's really important to see your friendly faces. It helps us to connect with you. It helps us to have an engagement. So we actually ask you, if your doctor enrolled you, please have your cameras on. We do want you to be muted, but please have your cameras on so we can be more connected with you. So please have your cameras on and please share with us why do people canceling on you, okay? So why do people are canceling you? Yeah, praying hard.
Yes, yep, I have to work. Something came up, I have to work. They forgot about the appointment. Yeah, work meetings, that's a super common one.
Childcare. And I always want to echo, and we're going to go into habits after that, because really we want to go into habits after that, whether I get it. I get it. And, we want to be kind, but if people kill and cancel, the bad thing, regardless of what they say, even if they say I'm at a hospital right now, there is always a way to say, "I am so sorry, Miss Sally. Usually our system charges 75 no-show shows for all the failed appointments, but of course we will take care of it for you." Do you see how I'm kind, but I'm constantly educating my patients that keep your appointment. And the office, I had one office that was very unsuccessful, super unsuccessful. And the reason I was unsuccessful, the only one reason, not because of the doctors, not because of the hygienist, because my business coordinator was too nice. Every time patients would cancel, she would say, "Of course, no problem, call us." And I didn't know why the office was failing. The office was failing financially. The office was failing because it's had a lot of holes in a schedule. And I didn't know till I spent the 2 days at the office. And I knew right away the problem was business coordinators that had to be my best friend too. So that was not easy. It was not easy to deal with that. So Sydney actually came in shortly after that and took over that office and changed. And Sydney is very nice, very kind, very politically correct. But Sydney had to re-educate and really had to re-educate all the patients that it is important to keep your appointment. Sydney, how did you do that?
I think just really with these tips that we're going over right now is just, again, reminding them every time of the late cancellation fee, kind of depending on what the situation was, double check with them, ask them, we had this time, we were excited to see you. We had this time set aside just for you and the provider. Is there any chance you can still make it to avoid that fee? Empathize with them, re-educate them again on the consequences of delaying their treatment. I think Dora just put in the chat, most of the time it's financial, or, the tooth isn't hurting, they think they can wait. That might be the case. That's great that it's not hurting you at this time, but just reminding them that That doesn't mean that it's fixed or that it's better. Like, we still definitely want to get you in, again, while that cavity is small enough to just need a filling instead of needing a crown or a root canal or something more. You can also appeal to their pocketbooks at that time. We want to get this taken care of for you while it's still at this small level before it turns into something that's going to be a lot more expensive for you and be a larger treatment, a larger time investment.
You got it. You got it. So that's really important. You got it. And then it's Sydney, I think, can you go down because of a time? I think I really want you to focus on our habits and really going through the habits, because we talked about why they cancel and go to the next lesson and really going through those habits, preventing failed appointments. You can go through these things, and really this is this is gonna go through the habits now, and this is where we want you to really jot it down. And really, this is the habits. This is the habits we ask our team to consistently practice, regardless whether it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or which patient it is. By practicing those habits, we can have a schedule that is full, we can have a low rate of no-shows, and ultimately, it makes you look like a rock star. How many of you would love to have a schedule that looks great and the doctor says, oh my gosh, no one in history has been able to do that. You must be the magical unicorn of a business coordinator. And obviously, yes, you will stand out like a magical unicorn because you have all these habits and you're consistent with that, and your schedule will be better than anybody else's schedule before you in your practice, even if people were in dentistry for 20 years. So here it is. You practice and develop those habits, and your schedule will be so amazing that you doctors, you practice administrators, you hygienists, and your dental assistants will think you just the best business coordinators that has ever been to the office by simply developing those habits. So Sydney, here's the habits.
Perfect. You have to be consistent with these habits. I always tell my team when I'm trained, you're the business coordinator, you're on the business team, the schedule is your baby. Your schedule is going to give out what you put into it. So if you work and use those habits to, build the ideal schedule or the perfect schedule in the non-perfect world, it's going to reflect the work that you've put into it. We kind of mentioned some of these, but emailing the new patient paperwork in advance. We typically email it right after we schedule the appointment, right after we get off the phone with the patient. I'd say, hey, I'm going to email you this patient paperwork. You can download it, fill it out, just email it back to us if you want to print it with and bring it with you. Or if you're not able to do that, we would just ask you to come in early to that appointment, fill it out in person. Usually in that email or on that paperwork that you send, it's requested that they provide at least 48 business hours in advance to avoid a last minute change or move to the appointment. Again, just kind of that first step, that first notice to them of you need to value this appointment time. We have it reserved just for you. Please give us notice if you have to change it for whatever reason. Educate every time about the $75 failed appointment fee or whatever fee that your practice charges. For no-shows and late cancellations, even if it's due to sickness, there is a kind way to, empathize with the patient and be understanding, but still remind them of that fee and reinforce that policy every time. So again, like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that you're not feeling well. Let's go ahead and get you rescheduled here. I do want to let you know our system will automatically charge or post a $75 failed appointment fee just because we do ask for that 48 business hour notice. But we definitely understand, sickness is out of our control. So let's find you a good day and time. And as a courtesy here, we can go ahead and write off that fee or whatever your policy is. But, remind them of that at every opportunity and just remind them every time. That way they can't come in and claim that they didn't know or that they were never told. Record and note each failed appointment or last minute cancellation. Not only to better understand how to navigate that issue and kind of what's coming up in your patients' lives for legality and risk management, but keeping track of all failed appointments for record keeping. And again, to identify those patients that make it a habit and that are likely going to do it again in the future. make sure we know any non-compliance with instruction or referrals. If we refer a patient to have a tooth removed at the oral surgeon and 2 years later they're calling back because that tooth is hurting and they never went and had it removed, we should have that noted. That ensures patients who have a history of failed appointments and resistance to policies, those that are understood to be flighty or that have a habit of doing these things, your team is going to be able to know that ahead of time and navigate scheduling their appointments, but also minimizing the risk that they would present to our time, maybe scheduling them around a lunch period. That way, if they do end up not showing to the appointment, that provider can just take a longer lunch, things like that. Don't record those subjective evaluations, such as your opinion about the patient's mental health. There is a confidential personal notes or patient notes section that you can put that sort of information in. Those can be withheld from the patient. They're not discoverable, legally. So anything like that should be kept kind of in a separate personal note area. Be extra aware when scheduling those patients that have a history of failed appointments. If they've done it several times in the past, they're more likely to be a repeat offender. If they do it once, they're more likely to do it again and again. If those times don't work for them, let them call us to schedule when they have a day that's absolutely for sure going to work for them. That's another reason why it's beneficial to make a record of all of those failed appointments. That way you, again, can identify those patients, pinpoint them, and maybe make a flag or a note on their account to only, let the patient call us when they're ready to schedule. When they have a time that's absolutely going to work for them. Making sure to get those solid confirmations, use a combination of different types of ways to reach out to those patients. That way, if maybe we have an old phone number on file, we're still reaching out to them via email. We're still contacting them in some way. Let's see. Move all unconfirmed appointments aside. I know this is something that's, it can be scary, I guess, to implement, but it really will help in the long run. Reaching out to that person, ask for a confirmation by a certain time the day before or a couple of days before their appointment. If they haven't reached back out to you or given you that confirmation by the time that you've requested, move that appointment aside, send them a message, immediately after that time that you asked for, and let them know, like, hey, we haven't heard back from you. Please give us a call and we would be happy to find a good time to get you rescheduled. A lot of times sending that kind of final message that their appointment has been moved aside will urge them to respond and be like, oh no, wait, I do want to keep that appointment before you've kind of started working to fill it. So sometimes that last little message can be the key that makes them finally respond and confirm their appointment. Scheduling those longer and fewer appointments. Again, if the patient is able and willing to do so.
Can I just add something really here?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot of people will be so afraid to do that. And here's what I'll tell you. People that have a tendency to no-show and they don't respect other people's time, they will not respond to your text. Remember, people look at their text 300 times a day. So if you texted them once and twice and now 3 times, and your last message via text message was that, here, please let us know kindly, this time is reserved just for you. If they still don't respond to you, don't feel bad moving that disrespectful patient aside, because that's a disrespectful patient. They're not going to be valuing your time. They don't even have courtesy to reply to your text. There is very few situations where people change the phone number, or maybe it's an older person, or, there is very rare situations when a patient really had a reason not to reply. And those patients may show up on this scheduled time. And if they do, the best way to avoid a conflict, to see if we can work them into the schedule, or if we absolutely can't, to apologize and say, I am so sorry. Since the pandemic, we have been very short on team members, which is not a lie. We have been short on a hygienist. We have been short on a hygienist since the pandemic. So because of that, everybody knows it. The whole country knows it. We are short on people in a dental office. We're short on a hygienist. We're short on dentist. We're short on waitresses. We're short everywhere in any industry. Our patients know that as well. So to avoid the conflict, if there is a rare circumstance where patients really didn't mean to be disrespectful and they simply didn't get the message, apologize and say, I'm so sorry, we're just so short since the pandemic. Let me see what I can do for you today. And if you cannot do anything, apologize and say, I'm so sorry. We can see you tomorrow or after tomorrow. And again, blame it on the pandemic, blame it on a labor shortage, and again, if patients don't understand and get mad at you, you cannot please everybody, but confirm with confidence. And if patients don't confirm back, most of the time, please use a chat and please tell me if you're trying to confirm the way we recommended to confirm, using all the channels, letting people know, and they still don't come in and still don't keep their appointments. What is the chance, really? What is the chance that they're they're planning to come to your appointment? Most of the time, they are not planning to keep their appointment. So because of that, have the confidence. Who would be comfortable implementing it? Please use a chat box. Just let us know, because I know not everybody will be comfortable doing it, but we have seen it over and over years that if our team members do what they need to do and patients still don't confirm, there is a 90% chance, more than 90% chance, people will not come in. So please use a chat box. What do you think about this, guys? Please share your opinion. We're just curious to hear. Please share with us. What are your thoughts about it?
I will say too, this goes into training your patients, train them to respond to your messages and to read your confirmation messages, like reiterate to them, oh, it looks like we reached out, several days ago, we reached out multiple times by text and email and call. We never got a response from you. So, we sent that follow-up text and, let you know that give us a call when you're ready. We can definitely get that rescheduled.
Brad says, I like giving a deadline to respond. Yes, absolutely. Give a deadline. I like giving a deadline to respond. And then Brittany says, I would be comfortable also giving a deadline. Exactly. You're being nice. You're being kind. Remember, you're being kind. You're being patient-centric. You're being people-centric. You're creating a schedules. You're giving a value. You're creating a perfect schedule. You're doing all of the things to make sure your patients have the best care, the best experience. They also have to give us stuff back. They have to keep those appointments. They have to value that time. They have to show up for their appointments. And they have to understand we value ourselves. We value what we do. So we want you to value that as well. And if you don't, we will charge you fees and we will terminate you as a patient as well. And it's okay. If you do that and if you create that culture where patients know it, you only will be more popular. Only more patients will want to see you because it's like, oh my gosh, they're so popular and they have so much value to them. And wow, I want to be patient there. I want to stay to be patient there. You create a value. It's actually pretty great internal marketing as well. Some people may say it will turn patients away from your practice. I will say the opposite. It will create more value and more patients will value what you offer to them and keeping appointments with you. And we have seen it, isn't it, Sydney? Have we seen this over and over?
Oh yeah, we did. I mean, we didn't used to move appointments aside if they were unconfirmed. We started doing that, just within the last few years here, and it's really made a difference. We value our time, so that way we can fill it with patients that also value our time and have confirmed and respond to us, and are excited to be able to get in.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to add it because I know that's how I get a lot of, I just get a lot of people that are uncomfortable about it at first. And I just want to create that confidence and say, we have done it. We're doing it every single day and it works beautifully. She says we give patients a deadline, getting close to the appointment and let them know about short notice cancellation. Good job. Good job, Dora. Great job.
Something I I love always remind them of the following when you're giving them their appointment cards. Just again, always reiterating that policy and what we're asking for to value those appointments. If for whatever reason we need to change or move this appointment, we just ask for that 48 business hour notice, and we can definitely find another time for you. You're saying it really nicely, but again, just in reinforcing the fact that we do need notice if they need to move their appointments. We can be flexible if they're going to value our time as they should. Scheduling those highly productive visits, within that 14 days to prevent the patient from losing motivation or, losing the sense of priority that they have on getting their treatment done. The longer we wait to schedule an appointment, the longer the patient has to, lose that motivation. Life gets in the way, bigger events or other expenses come into the picture that take precedence. So it's crucial to schedule patients within 2 weeks to ensure that their treatment is still at the forefront of their minds. It's at the forefront of their list of priorities. I can't stress this enough, giving those appointments or giving those estimates for appointments well in advance before the patient leaves the office, ideally no later than 24 to 48 hours after scheduling, unless they're scheduled for the next day or the next couple of days. If at all possible, give that next visit estimate to the patient before they leave. That way they basically have all of the information. The appointment is set in stone. There should be no reason that they would cancel or move it because they have all of the information at the time that they scheduled the appointment. One of the biggest reasons that we hear that a lot of offices, I'm sure, hear for failed appointments or late cancellations is expenses. When patients aren't aware ahead of time, they walk into the office and they're given, the large estimate, the large copay that they have to pay, and they weren't prepared. They're going to cancel on the spot. They have to be well informed of their financial duties and their financial options, payment options in advance. Make sure that we know those patients who do take issue with the cost and they don't remain on the schedule until the last minute. If we know or they've made clear that they're not going to be able to do that or are not interested in those financial options at the time. We have some examples down here. So definitely go into different ways that you can present those financial options if you don't have insurance, or, here's a breakdown of your limitations of insurance, what they will and will not cover, different payment options that we have available. If needed, again, we talked about doing a second financial consult to break down the entirety of a patient's treatment, show them what insurance will cover up until they reach that insurance limitation, show them what their out-of-pocket expenses are going to be, so that way they can prepare and be aware and plan in advance. She has an example listed too, so definitely go back and take a look at how to do those if it's not something that you already have in your office. And then the top 10 habits for preventing the failed appointments, again, is to email the new patient paperwork in advance, have a line in there saying what your late notice or what sort of cancellation policy you have. We recommend, again, trying not to use the word or say the word cancel, use change or move or reschedule at the very worst if you need to. Consider charging that last minute failed appointment or broken appointment fee. Let patients know and remind them, again, via all forms of communication at every applicable opportunity about that late cancellation or failed appointment fee. When the new patient comes in, it's on the paperwork. It's, maybe they sign a consent form in the office. When they schedule their next appointment, you're saying it every time you're giving them that appointment card. Remind them when you confirm the appointment. And then again, if they call in and they are trying to cancel at the last minute, remind them over the phone that one last time. Consider doing a reservation fee to reserve appointments. We've implemented this more recently, which we do apply that fee to the last appointment. If they have a lot of longer appointments, we take it out of their copay for that last appointment. But if they've already kind of made that financial investment, they're more likely to show up and value those appointments because they've already put down at least a little bit into that appointment. Confirm all appointments. Make sure you use a combination of different forms. Prevent those financial surprises. Again, get those copays out well in advance, if not when they have the appointment scheduled. That way they know from the start what's expected of them and what they're going to have to fund when they come in. Doing those second consults, training your team to check out with the patients before they leave the office. They should always be checking out with the business coordinator. Are they scheduled for their next appointment? Do they have a copay for their next appointment? Has anything changed with insurance? Just making sure that everybody's on the same page. That next appointment is set, it's taken care of. The patient is aware of everything that's going into that next appointment. Knowing how to communicate and what to say and how to say it with kindness, but with confidence. We want to be kind, but firm. When patients are canceling due to any reason, again, just remind them every time. Those tips on the previous page will be handy. A lot of times, those reasons that they cancel are going to fall into the same categories, whether that be sickness or work, a life emergency, just financial stresses, things like that. Write up a script if needed to help yourself when you're faced with those different scenarios. But definitely, have something ready to say that you can repeat basically every time. Like, again, I'm sorry to hear that. Our system does charge that automatic failed appointment fee. Is there any way that you could still make that appointment for that time that we had reserved for you? Something along those lines. And then recording, noting really well all the last minute cancellations, no matter what the reason was. Make sure you have record of all of the times, all of your confirmation attempts. If you sent a text to them to confirm, make a note of that we, if they come in or they, didn't realize how many times we had tried to reach out. You have a record of all the times that we attempted to confirm that appointment, all the times we reached out to try to get them to keep the appointment. Some more prevention tips that we have, again, try to have those confirmations 48 hours before the appointment takes place. And if they don't confirm, move them aside, because if they haven't confirmed, if they haven't read or responded to any of our attempts, any of our messages, they're probably not going to come to that appointment.
Hey, Sydney, I want to add something to make it a better and easier for you. Everything that Sydney's talking about it, if you say view, it actually has all the links for you. So Sydney, if you can click, yes, if you can click new communication, we have everything for you, what we use in the offices. Literally, we copy and paste this message and email to our patients. We either email to patients that made an appointment online, or if a patient calls us, we, if you go down, Sydney, if you go down, a little bit scroll down, there is a message that we send an email to the patient after we talk to them. So when a new patient schedules or a new patient calls us, we want to send them an email. We don't talk about 75 no-show fee because that's negative. They're not ready for that. We don't do it unless a patient comes to us. But even with the new patients, we add the message, this appointment is only reserved for you. Please kindly let us know 48 hours in advance if you cannot attend to it. So even with a new new patients, we save this message via email after they schedule online or after they call us and schedule. So we constantly tell people, please kindly let us know 48 hours in advance as this appointment made for you. People want to be kind. And again, if people not respectful, people don't care about our time, they probably will not respond to these messages, not confirm back, not keep the appointment, and you don't need to feel bad moving them aside. And again, if you doctors need to ask your doctors to read about it, ask your doctors to read with, to watch this Zoom meeting, because ultimately, there is a great way, that's a positive way to ensure your schedule stays busy and productive. And as a business, you succeed while you're still prioritizing patients and a team member well-being by not needing to deal with the last-minute appointments, cancellations, and ultimately just creating offices where your schedule allows you to provide great care without feeling burned out. So Sydney saying that, please look at all of your links. Everything we talked to you about, everything is included for you to check out via those links.
Yes, we have our no-show and late cancellation policy even here. So something to sign when they come in. Definitely look through those links, utilize what you can. There's a ton on here. So there's just a lot of great information and kind of a template that you can use for your own office. We have some examples of our confirmation messages that we send. So the first text that we send a few days out from their appointment, Just kind of a general good morning, we're looking forward to you. Here's your appointment time. Again, we can only see a limited number of patients. Please confirm the time that is reserved just for you. They can call back, text back. They have multiple ways that they can reach back out to us to confirm. That way they can do it at their convenience. If they need to leave a message after hours to confirm, that's fine. They can text whenever they have a second. A lot of people will say like, oh, I couldn't respond, I was at work. That's totally fine. We get that. You can respond after work. You can leave us a message after. You can text us whenever and we'll get it the next day. The second message that we would send the day before their appointment, again, we're following up on a previous message we've sent. We've already tried to contact you. Again, we greatly appreciate it if you would kindly reply, let us know if this appointment time still works for you by 9 a.m. today or 10 a.m. today. And then if they haven't confirmed by that 10 a.m. time or that 9 a.m. time that you've given, send this follow-up message if they still haven't responded. Again, we're following up on our previous messages. We hope that you're doing well. Since we haven't heard back from you and been able to confirm, please give us a call and we'd be happy to find you another time that'll work for you. If they end up showing up on that day, you could be really nice and just ask them, have you received any of our messages? Did you get any of our calls or our texts? Did you get our email? If they did, okay, why, did you see that we asked for a response by a certain time? If they didn't read them, like there's only so much we can do. They've got to value our time as well. So if we're doing everything we can, we can't feel bad for moving their appointment aside if they can't even take the time to read a text message. Again, if you're checking your phone 300 times a day, like I know you saw it, you just didn't reply, sir. It might be worth it to utilize maybe a longer appointment card, or we recommend putting your policy on the appointment cards. It says there at the bottom in the yellow, less than 48-hour notice will have that $75 failed appointment fee or that cancellation fee.
And this is really good, guys. This is actually for you. We will have a lot of practice scenarios. And again, you have to practice it with your team. You have to practice with your business coordinators, other business coordinators on your team. You have to practice and practice and practice. So Sydney actually practices a lot with our new team members. And tomorrow we will have more scenarios for you that you want to take back to your team and say, let's practice. How do we handle it? How do we respond to this? What do we say? So this is really, again, you may not agree with what we say here. Have your own way, but have a way. Have a way. Create a database of common scenarios and how you want your team to respond. And when a new person is coming in next month or next year, you have common scenarios that you can pull up and say, okay, let's practice scenarios, because ultimately we can talk about operations and systems and habits, but it's completely different when you start practicing it and when you start practicing what to say. So we highly recommend to look at the links that we have, implement it, and ultimately practicing with scenarios. So we really highly recommend for you to practice with scenarios and really today and tomorrow as well. So you guys will have a lot of them. You will have a lot of them tomorrow. And that's ends it for today for us. Sydney, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for teaching. And if you guys have any questions about creating a perfect scheduling in non-perfect world, preventing no-shows, or anything else, please email me throughout the day and I will bring it up tomorrow as well. But we hope you found this very helpful. And we hope you're excited to be the unicorn business coordinator that is just absolutely fabulous and the best your office has ever had. And guess what? By simply following the habits that we're teaching you, you will be an exceptional business coordinator that your team will say, where have you been? We couldn't be without you. We cannot be without you. On that, we will end for today. And let's say what Brad said. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. And thank you to everybody. Have a fabulous day. and we will see you tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, everybody.